Hello everyone, I'm Katharina Seidler from Resource Yourself. And this week I want to speak to you about finding oneness in my process of separation and divorce. We speak a lot about oneness these days because there's a big shift going on and many of us are going beyond the veil, experiencing our own existence beyond just being the person. Just last Wednesday, Dr. Pearl Jillian Fleer did a Facebook Live, and I was so inspired by the beautiful and very deep content that they presented. And so I thought I wanted to talk about what moves me with oneness. And I think that it's one thing to know we're all one, we hear this, we have sometimes states in meditation where we experience this, but what about when we live in our daily lives, when we experience negativity from other people and we have to position ourselves? And then a friend raised this question of separation and whether or not she has the right to follow her instinct to separate from her partner and the negativity she experienced with him, and if this was okay for her to choose separation or for her children. And I resonate so much with this question because I lived with it for a while and I made a lot of experiences. So maybe to contextualize, first I want to pick up on something that Dr. Pearl Jillian Fleer said, and that just got stuck with me. And it's, we exist as oneness, but we live in an optical illusion. And I think that just describes it so well, this that we are something bigger that goes beyond any experience, any story, any emotion. But in our daily lives, we live in these bodies with the experiences that we have. And that brings to my mind the levels of consciousness that Dr. David Hawkins describes, and just the fact that we are in different states of awareness. So we can be in a lower level of consciousness where we experience guilt and where a threat is real, and where we think, oh, this person is negative and he or she is not a good influence and brings all this negativity out in me. And in a higher state of consciousness, let's say in love, we might be able to be loving anyway. Or in an even higher state of consciousness, we might experience this other person and what they bring to us as a part of ourselves. And Dr. Pearl said something that really moved me, which is, as long as we see the other person, or as long as we see ourselves in the other person or them within us, we're still not experiencing and being oneness, because there's a me and there's another. And that's right. But I also think that we are on a path of integrating these very linear experiences and this very high awareness, oneness, knowingness or beingness that only now comes into our awareness more and more. And that's a path. So I want to share a few experiences and lessons that I learned on this path. First of all, I think that it's about shifting our own awareness. So for a long time, I worked on letting go of the illusions, the thoughts, the negative emotions, and there's a million approaches and tools that would allow me to every time go from the illusion into this higher awareness. But it was always work. And that changed with Reconnective Healing, because being in the awareness of these frequencies just allows me to receive the experience. And that also means that I have to receive the negativity without labeling it, because in the moment when I label it and I say, oh, it's that other person's issue, this person is abusive, this person is stuck, whatever it is, the label I give, in that moment, I separate from it, and really my intention is not to feel it. So what I learned with the frequencies is that I have to receive and really let it all in. And that is a path towards oneness, because in the moment when I let in that feeling of not being worthy, not being valuable, that the other person may experience or may trigger in me, then it can flow through and transform. So Reconnective Healing made this process of going into a higher state of awareness something really easy, a flow, something that I just have to allow. And I also learned on this path that separation or marriage is something that is much bigger than just me and my choices. For one, I am a child of divorced parents, so when I entered into my marriage, I thought, I am never, ever going to get divorced. I had this so clear. And this decision brought me and us a lot of suffering, because I held on to this idea of what I wanted it to be, even when it was very painful and when there was nothing left to build on. I just held on to the illusion, to the idea, to the beliefs that I had grown up with, and I wasn't able to let the reality in and be in awareness and allow it to change. I just wanted more children, a bigger family, and I wanted peace in the relationship. And so I lived with a lot of experiences that were very, I don't want to use the word abusive, but they were very, very negative towards me, and I didn't protect myself, nor did I see that I deserve better or I want better. I just took this as, this is how it has to be. And I learned in my process with family constellations that it's the system that chooses the partner, and it's also the system that may have information in it that leads into separation or divorce. That's not to say that we're not responsible, but it just means that there are factors influencing these decisions that are far beyond what we can grasp and know and be aware of with our conscious mind. And then if I even get into the whole field of reincarnation and past life experiences that sometimes come into our awareness, there's so many factors influencing this. And so for me, the conclusion was that I need to surrender to something bigger. And in the case of Reconnective Healing, this something bigger is this higher intelligence. May we call it God, may we call it field, may we call it frequencies, may we call it awareness. This higher intelligence, this higher part of ourselves guides us and brings exactly the experiences that we need to have. And that includes painful experiences. Because also now, looking back on my divorce, I have grown and learned so much and become someone who really rests in themselves and loves themselves. And that would have never been possible without making the choice based on my experiences that I have to love myself, and that all that counts is what I feel, what I think. And when that is in balance, then I can allow for adjustment to other people. And so surrendering to this higher intelligence is a second aspect. First one was allowing and receiving so that I can shift into a bigger level of consciousness or higher level of awareness. And the third aspect that really jumps out at me, I've already mentioned it, is allowing for it to be a process. Yes, when I see myself in the other and the other in me, I am still not in awareness. I'm still separated, but I can be more compassionate and I can have more understanding, whereas on an even lower level, I was only full of judgment. And through this compassion and this understanding, I can move further and I can move into more being and less thinking and less doing, and there I may experience my state, the thing that I always am, oneness. And the thing that's comforting for me is even when we don't remember and we don't know, or we just only remember mentally, we always are oneness. We're oneness when we get separated. We're oneness when we fight. We're oneness when we divorce. The question is whether or not we can experience this. So allowing for this to be a process, not expecting myself to always be in the highest state of awareness and act from that place, is what allowed this process to flow. Because before I had this rule: never act from the illusion, never act from fear, never act from anger. And it got me stuck in a place where I couldn't act at all, and where nothing moved, because I judged myself so much for not being oneness. And so I think the biggest aspect is the fourth. It's letting go of resistance and allowing for all the experiences that are there. And this is kind of like as if we were in love. Let's say you face this person and the conflict, and it feels horrible. What happens in my body anyway is it closes off, and I stop looking at the person. It's a sensation of tension, and I don't want to let these experiences into my heart, into my body. And so one way of progressing on this path into oneness is opening my heart to these experiences. So basically, you can visualize the other person that you're in conflict with, and you can just be in awareness of what that brings up. Or you can connect with what they are. It may not be an image. And you're in awareness of what this brings up, and you decide to open up and to be what they represent to you. So it's like stepping into the other person, or stepping into exactly the emotions and the feelings that you don't want to feel. And that gets so much easier when you're also in awareness of the frequencies. And what this does is it brings up all your resistance towards it, and then it brings up all the negative emotions that are in this common field. But if you open up as if you experienced love with this person, then it flows through you instead of being stuck, and you can actually move towards this love. So summing up, what I can say about moving towards the awareness of oneness is that we need to go through the process, and we need to allow and receive. And when we move towards this, or when we move into this state of higher awareness of oneness, whatever level it is, then we can take better decisions. Then we know if we need to separate or we don't need to separate. Then we know if it was just a crisis that transformed within us, or if it was more. So I would love to hear about your experiences, your doubts, your questions, your lessons that you learned. Feel free to comment, to leave me a like, and to share if you find this inspiring. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon.